Imagine being in an intimate moment where the usual expectations and stereotypes disappear, where vulnerability isn't seen as a weakness, and where desires that are often left unspoken are finally given room to breathe. Men, just like anyone else, have secret desires and fantasies that often go unspoken in the bedroom. But what if we were able to break through these walls and talk about what men really want, what they secretly crave but just can't admit? Today, let's explore the 6 kinky things men secretly want to try in bed but won't admit. Many men harbor a curiosity about exploring power dynamics in their intimate relationships, a concept that involves the exchange of control between partners, often seen in roles like dominance and submission. These dynamics can manifest in a variety of ways. One partner may take on a more commanding, assertive role, while the other may embrace a more passive, yielding position. For many men, these desires remain unspoken due to the societal pressures that shape their self-identity, especially when it comes to their masculinity. At the core of this desire is the tension between vulnerability and strength. Traditional gender norms often define masculinity as being assertive, dominant, and in control. Men are often conditioned to believe that showing any sign of emotional or physical vulnerability is a weakness. Therefore, the idea of giving up control, especially in an intimate context, can feel like a threat to their masculinity. To some men, the prospect of being submissive or letting their partner take charge feels like an act of relinquishing their manhood, even if intellectually they recognize that it can lead to deeper intimacy and pleasure. They may worry that their partner will perceive them as weak or less capable if they express an interest in these power dynamics. Power dynamics can be an avenue for exploring deeper emotional connection. For instance, a man might want to experience being controlled or guided in a way that allows him to feel cared for and nurtured, even though he might feel apprehensive about admitting it. The act of surrendering control during a sexual encounter can paradoxically be incredibly liberating, offering him a chance to escape the constant pressures of being the strong one in his daily life. This desire is not an indication of inadequacy, but rather a craving for a different form of connection. One where both partners can navigate the experience together. However, this curiosity often remains hidden due to fear of judgment. Even if a man recognizes that exploring power dynamics is a healthy and exciting aspect of intimacy, the societal expectation of constant strength and dominance makes it difficult to voice these desires. It's an unspoken rule that men are supposed to be the ones leading, and suggesting the opposite can feel like a betrayal of that rule. This fear of being judged may stop him from discussing it with his partner, despite the potential for a more fulfilling and diverse sexual connection. Men often feel an internal pressure to maintain a level of sexual prowess that aligns with traditional masculine ideals. There's the misconception that a man's worth is tied to his ability to perform sexually, a notion that can be particularly harmful when it comes to exploring power dynamics. A man who might enjoy being dominated or exploring submissive roles might worry that admitting it would make him appear less experienced or sexually capable. This internal conflict creates a barrier to expressing his desires, and as a result, these interests remain secret. Yet for many men, the concept of exploring power exchange in bed is about more than just the act itself. It's about finding a space where they can let go of the responsibilities and expectations they face in the outside world. In a world where they are often expected to be the leaders and providers, giving up control, even temporarily, can provide a sense of relief. It's a way to embrace a different side of themselves without fear of judgment or criticism. But until societal pressures around masculinity begin to shift, many men will continue to keep these desires to themselves, afraid that exploring power dynamics could risk challenging the norms that shape their identity. For many men, the act of experimenting with sensory exploration in the bedroom is a deeply intriguing prospect. Sensory play can involve a wide range of activities designed to enhance physical sensations and elevate the experience of intimacy to new heights. These could include using blindfolds, restraints, temperature play, or introducing various textures to touch. The appeal lies in how sensory play magnifies anticipation, deepens emotional connections, and creates an environment of heightened pleasure. However, despite the allure, many men are hesitant to openly express a desire to explore these activities due to concerns about being seen as too experimental or stepping outside of what they believe is traditionally acceptable behavior in intimate relationships. One aspect of sensory exploration that can be particularly captivating for men is the use of blindfolds. The idea of being deprived of sight increases the other senses, particularly touch and sound, creating a heightened sense of anticipation and vulnerability. The uncertainty about what will happen next, whether it's a soft caress, a firm grip, or a gentle whisper, can be thrilling. The mind begins to fill in the blanks, making every touch feel more intense and intimate. This sensory deprivation can lead to a profound emotional experience as it opens up the possibility of new forms of connection that aren't solely based on physical attraction, but also on trust, communication, and emotional depth. However, because blindfolds and other similar devices are often associated with kink or out-of-the-norm behavior, many men are reluctant to suggest them to their partner for fear of being perceived as too much or not fitting into the mold of conventional sexual expectations. Temperature play, which might involve using ice cubes, hot wax, or even heated toys, is another form of sensory exploration that many men might secretly wish to try. The contrast between hot and cold can create a thrilling effect on the body, heightening nerve responses and intensifying sensations. The unpredictability of a warm touch followed by a cool sensation can bring a fresh wave of excitement to the experience. This can also introduce an element of control and surrender. The man may enjoy either taking control by introducing the elements of temperature, or may want to be the recipient of this exploration, letting his partner lead the experience. But the vulnerability of sharing this desire can often feel intimidating. He may fear that his partner will think he's too experimental, or that it could take the spontaneity out of intimacy. There's an unspoken concern that these activities could be seen as overly planned or clinical, rather than part of a naturally flowing sexual experience. Restraints are another commonly desired form of sensory exploration that some men secretly want to try. The idea of being physically restrained can spark a mix of vulnerability, trust, and exhilaration. For some, the physicality of being restrained can heighten the intensity of touch, while others may feel an emotional connection to the idea of relinquishing control in a safe and consensual space. Restraints also create a sense of anticipation, as the man becomes more aware of every sensation, from the soft caress to the firmer touches that follow. However, the notion of bondage or restraints carries a stigma for some. Men may worry that admitting an interest in restraints could lead to judgment, as these activities are often associated with more extreme forms of kink. The fear of being seen as unconventional or deviant often prevents them from voicing this desire. Sensory exploration is about more than just physical pleasure. It is about creating an immersive experience that taps into the mind, body, and emotions in ways that traditional sexual experiences might not. It introduces a layer of complexity that can foster deeper emotional intimacy between partners. However, the societal pressure on men to conform to a more vanilla approach to intimacy, one that values spontaneity and directness, can leave these desires locked away. Many men are conditioned to believe that intimacy should be simple, instinctual, and not too elaborate. As a result, they may feel embarrassed or insecure about expressing an interest in activities that involve heightened sensations or physical experimentation. This hesitance often stems from a fear that their partner may not be open to these ideas, or might feel uncomfortable with the shift from traditional sexual roles. Ultimately, the appeal of sensory exploration is rooted in the desire to deepen intimacy and make sexual experiences feel new, exciting, and emotionally fulfilling. However, the complexities of vulnerability, societal expectations, and fear of judgment often leave these desires unspoken. Men who wish to explore these experiences may struggle to bridge the gap between their curiosity and the fear of how they will be perceived by their partner, creating a divide between what they secretly desire and what they feel comfortable admitting. Role-playing is a form of fantasy exploration that many men secretly crave but feel hesitant to admit. It involves taking on different personas or acting out various scenarios that diverge from the familiar roles in a relationship. The excitement of pretending to be someone else or stepping into a new situation can be a deeply thrilling experience, providing an escape from the pressures of everyday life. For many men, role-play offers a fresh way to explore intimacy. It gives them a chance to express desires and fantasies they may feel uncomfortable sharing openly. Still, despite its appeal, there's often a strong hesitation to bring up this interest due to fear of judgment, vulnerability, and the desire to maintain control in the relationship. Part of what makes role-playing so intriguing is how it taps into the world of imagination. Many men quietly fantasize about stepping into other roles, whether it's the image of being in charge, embodying a powerful character, or even something more unusual. These fantasies create a break from routine and bring a sense of excitement and freshness to their sex lives. A man might, for instance, dream of being a dominant figure in a made-up scenario, or imagine himself in a more submissive, exposed position. These roles vary widely, from being someone like a boss or professor to characters from movies or stories. Roleplay provides a setting where they can express these longings without the burden of their everyday identity or responsibility. Stepping into a role creates emotional and mental space from the person they usually are in the relationship. It's a kind of freedom where the man isn't tied to his typical self-restraint. This short-term escape allows him to live out fantasies he might think are too unconventional or taboo to mention directly. The thrill isn't just in the physical, it's also about the emotional and mental freedom that roleplay can bring. However, there's real vulnerability attached to these wants. Many men worry their partner will judge them for their fantasies or feel uneasy about the idea of roleplay. There's concern that their partner might think they're unhappy in the relationship or not satisfied with the current intimacy. Even though the aim of roleplay is often to strengthen the connection rather than weaken it, there's still the fear of not doing it well. Men may stress about their performance in the chosen role, whether it's the acting, what they say, or how the scene unfolds. This pressure can be overwhelming, especially if they're unsure how their partner will respond. They might fear that their partner will reject the idea, or that the whole experience will feel unnatural and forced. Doing something so different carries a sense of risk, and for some, the fear of being laughed at or turned down keeps these desires locked inside. Yet, roleplay can actually deepen the bond between partners when both are open to it. Unfortunately, the hesitation to bring it up often keeps it from ever happening. Another challenge lies in reconciling these fantasies with one's identity. Society tends to push certain ideas of what a man should be: strong, composed, and emotionally guarded. So the idea of acting out a character or stepping outside the usual self can feel like it clashes with the image they've worked hard to maintain. For some, there's fear that taking part in roleplay might be seen as childish or unmanly. They may worry their partner will find it silly or think they're trying too hard to add something extra to the relationship. Still, despite the fears, roleplay can be a powerful tool for building closeness. It allows couples to discover new sides of each other and keep intimacy alive in a fresh, emotionally connected way. Men may crave experiences that reach beyond just physical pleasure and explore deeper emotional and mental closeness. They want a kind of connection that involves slow, thoughtful touch, sustained eye contact, and sincere words of affection. These moments don't rely only on passion, but thrive on presence and intention. And while culture often brushes such needs aside or labels them as overly soft, many men quietly long for this kind of closeness. But sharing such deeply personal needs takes courage. Men often hold back out of fear that they'll be seen as too emotional or sensitive. The idea of a slower, more emotionally rich encounter goes against the common idea that men prefer quick, aggressive, goal-focused intimacy. Society tends to say that men should lead, perform, and focus on physical satisfaction. Emotional connection is rarely encouraged. Because of these long-standing beliefs, many men are led to think that wanting tenderness or emotional depth somehow weakens their masculinity. This disconnect between what they truly want and what they think they're supposed to want leaves them unsure about how to express their needs. They end up hiding what they feel, unsure if it fits the role they believe they must play. The truth is, longing for emotional intimacy is not a sign of weakness. It's a desire for a more meaningful connection. Men who seek this kind of experience often find that they aren't looking for just a checklist of sexual acts. They want touch that's slow and intentional, not hurried or routine. They want to feel cared for, emotionally seen, and truly connected during those moments. When intimacy becomes more about emotional trust and genuine affection, it creates space for deeper bonding. But again, many men worry about how these desires will be seen. Will it make them look needy? Will their partner understand? These fears can lead to silence, even when the desire for emotional closeness is strong. One way this desire shows up is in the craving for slow intimacy. Spending more time being present with each other's bodies, responding to every movement, and noticing every reaction. For some men, this level of awareness is not only arousing, but also emotionally rewarding. A slower pace creates a chance to tune in to one another and build a stronger connection. But once more, they may keep this hidden, worrying it's not how things are supposed to be. Emotional closeness can also be expressed through words, whether it's soft praise, kind reassurance, or even emotionally intelligent forms of dirty talk. Men may long to say how they feel during intimacy, not just to please, but to connect. A simple word of love or appreciation can be incredibly grounding. It can make them feel understood and emotionally secure. Yet, they hesitate, afraid of being called too sentimental or too expressive. We live in a world where men are taught to keep their emotions in check, especially in romantic or sexual moments. So even when they want to express affection out loud, they often don't. They fear they'll come across as weak or overly sensitive. Still, those unspoken words hold deep meaning and, when expressed, can strengthen the emotional link between partners. True emotional intimacy also involves trust. To fully share oneself, to be open, soft, and real, requires trust at a level that many men struggle to build. Being emotionally exposed can feel risky. It challenges the idea that men should always be in control, never showing too much feeling. They might worry that being too tender will change how their partner sees them, and if they believe their partner expects a more dominant or emotionally distant version of masculinity, they may stay quiet. In the end, many men yearn for a kind of connection that allows them to be both strong and soft, both physically passionate and emotionally available. They want to know that their needs won't be dismissed, that asking for closeness, comfort, and emotional depth doesn't make them less of a man. What they seek is not just physical fulfillment, but emotional safety, a space where they can be their full selves without judgment. This desire often remains unspoken because of the pressure men feel to fit into traditional gender roles, and the fear that their partner might not understand or value this emotional part of them. The truth is, emotional closeness is often just as important, if not more so, than the physical connection for many men. Wanting a deeper emotional bond doesn't take away from their masculinity. Instead, it adds depth to the relationship, giving both partners the opportunity to grow closer and more emotionally connected. Still, a lot of men hesitate to speak about these feelings, choosing instead to hide them out of fear of being seen as too emotional, needy, or overly sensitive. This pattern, shaped by what society expects from men, often stops them from fully sharing their emotional needs in intimate relationships, even though doing so could bring a much deeper and more balanced connection. For many men, the effect of words during intimacy is a powerful but often overlooked part of their sexual experience. Speaking during intimate moments, whether it's through playful teasing, loving compliments, or soft encouragement, can strengthen emotional closeness and make physical intimacy more intense. While some may feel nervous or unsure about talking during those moments, many men secretly wish they could use words to express more than just physical desire. They want to speak openly, not only to show affection or longing, but also to deepen their emotional bond. However, even with this longing, many men hold back. They're afraid that speaking up might make them seem inexperienced, too emotional, or less attractive. But words during intimacy can have a huge impact. For some men, hearing their partner express affection or desire for them creates a powerful sense of connection and affirmation. Loving words can boost their confidence and self-worth, making them feel appreciated not only for their body, but for who they are. This can be especially meaningful in moments when emotional and physical closeness come together. When a man hears his partner say something kind, whether it's a heartfelt compliment or even gentle teasing, it can lift him up and make the whole experience richer. The idea of dirty talk, too, often gets misunderstood. Many people think it's only for more adventurous sexual situations, but the truth is, many men are drawn to this form of expression. Dirty talk can turn up the heat by creating a mental connection between partners that drives physical passion. For some, it's not just the sexual nature of the words, but the act of speaking their innermost desires, fantasies, and feelings out loud that makes it exciting. Builds a space where both partners feel free to share their passion and excitement without judgment. Even so, a lot of men hesitate to start or respond to dirty talk because they worry it might come across as strange, awkward, or too intense. They may fear their words won't be received well, or that they'll sound unnatural in the moment. On the gentler side, many men long for sweet, heartfelt words during intimacy, expressions of love, comfort, or thanks that can create emotional warmth and deepen the bond. But even these simple expressions can feel difficult to share. Some men dream of telling their partner how much they matter during these intimate times, yet feel uneasy doing it. The idea that men should avoid openly showing affection, especially during sex, can make these expressions feel awkward or out of place. Because of this, many keep their feelings to themselves, afraid that showing too much emotion might be seen as soft or overly sentimental. There's also the fear of getting it wrong. When it comes to speaking during intimate moments, men often worry they won't know what to say or might say something inappropriate. The fear of sounding cheesy, fake, or just off can make them stay quiet or stick to familiar, safer lines. This fear grows with the thought of being judged or turned down, A man may wonder if his partner will think he's trying too hard or find his words unappealing. That fear can keep him from fully exploring the emotional power of words during intimacy. What makes this issue so complex is how deeply culture has shaped ideas of masculinity. From a young age, boys are taught that being vulnerable is something to avoid, especially when it comes to emotion. So even if a man longs for verbal closeness, it's hard to match that with the tough image of masculinity he's grown up with. He may worry that being emotionally open during sex could make him seem less attractive or less manly. This inner struggle becomes a wall that stops many men from sharing their thoughts and desires through words, whether it's through naughty talk, soft affection, or even just saying how much they feel connected. But despite all these challenges, speaking during intimacy can make a huge difference. It can build trust, bring more pleasure, and open a space for deeper emotional honesty. For men who crave a more verbal experience in bed, it's not just about talking for the sake of it. It's about using words to show feelings that may be hard to show through actions alone. When both people share their thoughts in ways that match their emotional and physical needs, it makes the whole experience more real, connected, and satisfying. Often these hidden desires can come to light when there's open communication and a willingness to explore the emotional side of intimacy. Men who manage to move past their fears of being judged or misunderstood often find that words can make the physical connection much more rewarding. The emotional closeness that comes from verbal expression can turn sex into something far more meaningful. For many men, the thought of exploring power roles in the bedroom, whether being dominant or submissive, can be a secret fantasy they rarely talk about. These interests often connect with fantasies of control, surrender, or switching traditional roles, which can bring a whole new level of intensity and thrill to intimacy. Yet despite the appeal, many men hold back from speaking about these interests because they're afraid of being seen as strange or judged for wanting something outside the typical idea of masculinity. They fear being viewed as weak, overly submissive, or not fitting the usual male image. Even though these fantasies are more common than people think and can bring deeper closeness when shared. The excitement of power roles often comes from the contrast between control and vulnerability. For some men, being dominant in bed is linked with the joy of taking charge, setting the pace, and guiding the experience. It can feel incredibly empowering, especially when their partner willingly gives up control. On the other hand, submission can be just as appealing. Letting go and being led through an experience can build emotional trust and intimacy. In this setting, being submissive is not about being weak. It's about the courage to be emotionally open and to allow someone else to guide the moment with care and respect. Some men feel drawn to being dominant because they like taking the lead in many parts of life. In bed, this can become a fantasy where they call the shots, demand attention, and put their own desires at the center. It creates a sense of powerful focus, both emotionally and physically. But still, many men avoid talking about this desire. They're unsure if their partner will enjoy exploring power roles, or fear that they'll come across as too pushy or aggressive. However, when the women come into intercourse, they see someone that they know will draw into power more so and feel it will inevitably. That fear can stop them from sharing something that could actually bring more fire and connection into the relationship. On the flip side, many men find the idea of submission deeply freeing. Giving up control and letting their partner take the lead can be a way to escape the pressure of always being in charge. Submission can include different levels of surrender, from letting the partner decide what happens to being physically restrained or simply giving up the usual sense of authority expected of men. For these men, submission isn't about weakness. It's a way to experience intimacy from a softer, more emotionally present place. Yet again, society's strict rules about masculinity make this hard to admit. Many men feel ashamed or nervous about saying they want this. A common misunderstanding is that submission is always tied to weakness, or that a man is somehow less masculine if he allows himself to be overpowered. This belief often makes it hard for men to talk about this desire, even though it's something they may quietly wish to experience. The layers of power dynamics also touch deeply on trust and open communication. Exploring roles of dominance and submission takes a great deal of trust between partners. Since these dynamics involve control and emotional openness, they must be handled with thoughtfulness. Many men hesitate to express these interests because they worry their partner may not get it, or they fear they won't be able to manage the sensitive balance of power with care and mutual agreement. The thought of being in a place where someone else holds control can feel overwhelming, especially when it connects to personal vulnerability. Trust, mutual agreement, and honest communication are key parts of making these dynamics feel safe and enjoyable. But a lot of men feel lost on how to bring this up with their partner. They're unsure if their partner will be accepting or willing to explore those limits together. Cultural conditioning adds another barrier to expressing these desires. From early on, boys are taught to be tough, commanding, and in charge, especially in romantic or sexual roles. The belief is that men must always lead and never give up control. These firm gender expectations offer very little space for men to admit a wish for vulnerability, a longing to submit, or even a simple curiosity about different kinds of power roles. This pressure to fit into the typical male mold causes inner struggle when a man starts to feel fantasies that don't match what society says is manly. Some may feel they are going against their own identity, or fear that being submissive or exploring dominant behavior questions their self-worth. But the truth is, when these power dynamics are explored with openness and care, they can bring great emotional closeness and trust between partners. When two people are honest and in tune with each other, trying out dominance and submission can open doors to a more meaningful connection. It's no longer just about physical touch. It becomes about mental connection and emotional growth too. For men who quietly carry these wishes, expressing them can bring more joy and a deeper experience of both body and heart. They begin to feel free to enjoy pleasure that connects with their most personal desires. The urge to discover power roles in intimacy has nothing to do with being weak or losing masculinity. It's more about building a stronger bond through trust, control, and shared vulnerability. These kinds of desires come from a natural part of human intimacy, a desire to feel deeper levels of closeness. But for many men, the hard part is breaking past those old beliefs and social rules that have told them it's wrong to want this. By being brave enough to talk openly about a wish to lead or follow in intimate settings, men open the door to richer, more balanced relationships. These relationships aren't stuck at the surface level. They reach into emotional depth, allowing both people to feel seen, valued, and connected in powerful new ways. Throughout this journey, we've revealed longings and fantasies that many men carry silently, from craving emotional connection and intimacy to wanting to explore power exchange, from needing affirming words to desiring soft moments of closeness. None of this is about being weak. It's about wanting something real. Men, just like women, want to be noticed, wanted, and deeply understood. The most satisfying intimate experiences are the ones where both people feel safe enough to be open, to express dreams and curiosities, and to share without fear of being judged. When we stop pretending these desires don't exist, we begin to build a space where both people can dive into deeper pleasure and more honest love. Let's honor these quiet longings, step beyond the old limits, and make room for the kinds of fantasies that create lasting, powerful, and emotionally rewarding bonds.